We went to a furniture store to buy a new dining table and prices were insanely high, and I'm on a budget. This is our dining table. Tony got it for about $30 at a yard sale and we've had it for a few years. So after shopping at furniture stores, I went online searching for more dining tables and I found a picture on Pinterest similar to the dining table we have but in the colors I like. So instead of buying a new one for $1,153, I'm using this as my inspiration to refinish our current dining table. To make the process easier, I'm going to flip the table very carefully. That works. This is one of those extendable tables, that's why it has the hardware underneath, but I won't be using that. To clean it, I'm using TSP, which is great to prep surfaces before painting them. Sand it, I'll be using this liquid sander. When I was thinking about doing this project, I also thought, I'm like, what would be the easiest, more efficient way to do this? Just because looking at the table and I started looking at all of this and I'm like, oh my God, that's just gonna take me forever. Tony, make sure you delete that out of the video. So if you're working with a piece that has a lot of details, the liquid sandpaper is great because it removes the glossy layer, allowing you to paint over it. I was going to cover the seats and paint around them, but then I realized that they were only attached by screws and it would be a lot easier if I just fully removed them. I'm using bonding primer in a can to make priming go quickly, and I'm also using this trigger thingy to make it easier to spray and to avoid drips. I love how easy it was to cover all the little details using the spray can. Priming helps paint adhere to the surface and it also prevents stains from bleeding through the paint. I noticed there were some drips, which means that I sprayed too much or too close in one spot. Try to catch the drips before they dry, otherwise you will have to sand them later. This is how they look after a coat of primer. They're already looking so much better. To paint, I'm using a pneumatic paint sprayer that attaches to an air compressor. Applying the paint with the sprayer makes it easier to have a smooth, even finish. I'm using an eggshell interior paint that I got from Lowe's from the Oops section a while ago. The color is Gracious Gray, which is an off-white color. I'm getting ready to paint the table. I'm just gonna do this back part real quick, and then I'll go ahead and paint the table, and that will be it for today. I have to let it dry for 4 hours and it'll be dark in 4 hours.
Yo!
Sir? Sir?
What?
You cannot be on there.
Why?
I do not want to paint you.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Let's go.
Let's get you out. Come on.
Whee!
Get off. No. Get off.
But I love you.
He doesn't want to get off. He doesn't want to get off. Get off. Oh, there. Thanks. Goodbye. Because this is an old table, it has some cracks and areas that need to be repaired. I should have repaired this after the primer coat instead of the first coat of paint, but for some reason that I have no explanation for, I didn't. So I'm going to do it now and it should be covered by the second coat of paint. To repair, I'm using a high-performance wood filler which gets mixed with a hardener, kind of like a two-part epoxy, and once it dries, it creates a strong bond and it takes about 30 minutes to be ready to sand. To sand the repair spots, I'm using 320 grit. I didn't go any lower because the surface is already painted, so I don't want to remove any of the paint. After I finished sanding all the repair spots, I did the second coat of paint. If you're using a sprayer, cleaning it right after you're done using it is very important to avoid the paint drying and clogging the sprayer. For the top coat, I'm using polyacrylic. Polyacrylic is a water-based protective coat and it comes in different sheens, and for this project I picked a satin finish. So I had to take off running because I noticed that when I started spraying, it was spraying on too thick and it started dripping. I think that happened because I have the sprayer too high and the polyacrylic is very thin compared to the paint. So I'm gonna try to fix it and then adjust the sprayer. I was able to adjust the sprayer to avoid dripping, and I also kept about a 12-inch distance while spraying. Sorry! I want to give our dining table a light distressed look, and I already had this antiquing wax, which I plan on using to give it an aged distressed look. To apply it, I'm using a chip brush, water, and some disposable rags. I started applying the antiquing wax, but then I didn't like how it looked. Instead of the distressed look, it was looking more like it was just dirty, so I decided to try something different, which was applying the black gel stain to give it a distressed look. Here's a comparison of the black gel stain versus the antiquing wax. I ended up painting over the antiquing wax to start over the distressed look with the gel stain instead. To apply the gel stain, I used a chip brush and very lightly applied it to some of the areas around the chairs and the table. The rags and the water I used to wipe off any excess. Because I wanted this to be a light look, I made sure to do it very lightly. The gel stain is very strong, so you have to be careful with it, and I recommend doing a little bit of practice on a different surface until you get the hang of it. After drying, some spots ended up being darker than what I wanted them to, so to lighten them up, I sanded them lightly with 220 grit sandpaper. Peekaboo. As you can see, it was getting dark outside, so I had to finish staining the next day. The top of the table is laminated, so to prep it for painting, I'm sanding with a random Orbital Sander with 220 grit sandpaper. Before priming, I'm fixing a chip area on the top using the same high-performance wood filler I used before. After the wood filler dried, I sanded it until it was smooth and even with the top surface. I cleaned all the sanding dust off, and then after that, I primed the top with the same bonding primer I used for the chairs and the legs. There was a couple drips, so I used a foam brush to even them out. I was priming on a cold day outside, so I sped up the drying process by using a heat gun. Then I did a second coat of primer on the top. Laminate is one of those surfaces that is hard for paint to stick to, so I wanted to make sure that I covered it well with the primer. The polyacrylic requires 3 coats, so I did the second coat after I got done sanding the top. So it's just when I do that, the clear coat's not going under there, like it's just this top part. So I just want to make sure that I even it out. Once again, I was working till dark. Hopefully I can see what I'm doing. And if not, I will find out tomorrow and probably be mad about it.
Make Tiffany go up the stairs first, Chris, because Tiffany is significantly shorter. Him strong like bull. Him twice the size of you, Tiffany.
One, two, one, two, one, two. One. I was gonna count to 3, but she started lifting. How come it was a lot easier getting it in than it was getting it out?
I know, we struggled with this. We had to like flip it over, like different sides, angle it, like. All right, this is where I would finish my masterpiece. The top was definitely an experiment, and it's also what will make the table look unique. I wanted the aged wood look on the top, but since it's not real wood, I had to create it. But to do that, I'm going to be using a combination of the antiquing wax and the gel stain. The wax and the stain doesn't go well on the primer by itself, so I have to do a base coat of paint. Since I'm going to make the top look like wood, I'm painting with a brush because the brush strokes are going to look like the wood grain later. I noticed some bumps after I did the first coat of paint, so I sanded those out and I did a second coat of paint. Before applying the aged look on the top, I did several practice pieces to make sure that I was happy with the colors, and I ended up deciding on this one. For the brown undertone, I'm using an antiquing wax. The wax goes on pretty strong, but after you wipe it out, most of it comes out leaving random streaks of aged look. I've seen several videos using a whisk broom to help with the wood grain look, so I decided to give it a try. I only did one coat, but you can do multiple coats depending on how dark you want it to be.
Tiffany, can I ask you a question? I was pretty sure you were going to use it to paint, but what broom did you murder to create that tool? Did you destroy my broom?
No, you don't have a broom like this that I know of. Oh, did you? Because then, that means I didn't have to buy one. I am using this to kind of create the wood grain, which is pretty cool. I am a little scared because of how strongly this came out. So after the antiquing wax dried, I then applied the black gel stain, using the same method as the wax, brushing it on and wiping it off. Do that, and it's supposed to create your wood grain. After I got done, I tried to repair some spots I didn't like by sanding them, but that was a big mistake because the sanding will take the stain right off and it's not that easy to fix. So I recommend just leaving it alone. I noticed that in some spots, some brown and yellow has started to bleed through. And I'm pretty sure that's because I didn't prime those spots correctly. Or like I just didn't prime them well enough. So, you know, it's mostly in the corners and things like that. So the primer probably when I was spraying it, it missed it. You know, I mean, to fix it, you kind of try to sand it down and do the coats of paint again. But I'm going to try to just cover it up with the same aging color. For the top coat, I use Wipe On Poly. I use this product because the gel stain is oil-based, so I wanted to seal it with an oil-based product. And also because oil-based is more resistant than the water-based top coat. I did 4 coats, allowing it to dry in between. While I was waiting for the wipe-on poly to dry, I did the last coat of polyacrylic on the chairs. Some of the screws didn't want to go in because the hole is too big. So I'm just gonna fill them in with plastic wood. Oops. So while I finish putting this together, I'm going to go over the cost of the materials. We got the table at a yard sale for $30. Some of the materials I already had, such as the paint, the stain, and the antiquing wax. So the total after materials was $143. In comparison, the table that I found on Pinterest for $1,153, I used it as my inspiration to refinish my current table, saving me a total of $1,010. And here's the final product. On my next project, I will be giving my kitchen a makeover without doing any renovation. Once I'm done with this project, I'll have the video link in the description below, so stick around and I'll see you on the next video.